is a senior reporter from the Epoch Times. That's the Epoch Times, EPOCH, theepochtimes.com. Nan Su is on the phone with us this morning. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Thank you, John, for having me. Good morning.
It's great to have you here, sir. And I'm very excited about our conversation today. Now, you're a senior reporter for the Epoch Times, and what do you mostly write on? There are a lot of great reporters at the Epoch Times too, by the way. That's quite a publication to work for.
Yeah, I'm personally right now pretty much focused on the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party's infiltration in the Western world.
Okay, now we're going to talk about that. I've got a whole bunch of directions we can go, but obviously we want to talk about how it applies to Afghanistan. I also want to mention something the Epoch Times is doing, and this may or may not relate to the CCP. I'm sure probably in some way it does, but Epoch TV has actually episode 3, I think, just got released, The Dark Origins of Communism. And I would encourage people to see that. Is there much of a CCP mentioned in that series? Do you know?
Well, the entire history of CCP is kind of more or less related to that research. So if you go and trace back to CCP was not from originally. Communism was not originally from China. It's totally against the traditional Chinese culture. It was created by Karl Marx,
right,
who was a German, and it was first practiced in Russia. So when he was introduced to China in the early 1920s, it was it was basically entirely against the tradition of China.
Wow, and here we are today. We've got one of the most influential governments, and arguably maybe at this point the most influential and most consequential governments in the world is the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and they are having effects being felt worldwide with this COVID-19 pandemic we have going on, and now with us leaving Afghanistan, it leaves the door wide open for the CCP. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yes. In the last few weeks, the entire state-owned media, all the state-owned media in China has been in all-out war. They pretty much all into the propaganda that around the U.S. troops withdraw from Afghanistan. So all their articles are focused on 3 areas. Number one, United States is a paper tiger. Just look at Taliban soldiers. They're only equipped with AK-47. They were able to defeat the U.S. troops. Number two, China is constructive. China is the leader of the world's constructive force, while United States is the leader of a destructive force. And so China is going to help Taliban to rebuild Afghanistan. And number 3, whoever making alliance with United States will be eventually abandoned by United States. Specifically, they try to focus Taiwan to make a threat to Taiwan. Say, hey, if you are the ally of the United States, eventually you're going to be abandoned, just like those U.S. allies in Afghanistan.
Wow, that's very hard. That's hard to hear, but there's a lot of truth in that, unfortunately. So we've got the U.S. has long been the shining city on the hill, the global leader in just about everything. But the Chinese have been ready to pounce, and now we have so many of our big.
Hey, John, I can hardly hear hear you.
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me better now?
Okay. Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So the U.S. has always been a world leader, and the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping, and those before him have been looking for the opportunity to take us over in some way, even if it means incrementally. And this is a great foot in the door for them in Afghanistan. And the Chinese government and the Taliban have a pretty good relationship. And do you foresee anything coming of that so that our homeland here in America will be affected, Nan Su? Are we in danger, do you think, of terrorism with the Taliban and the Chinese working together?
Oh yeah, they've been working all together ever since beginning. Chinese communist regime has been working on both sides. In the past, that they work with the Afghanistan government that's supported by the U.S. and so for their Belt and Roads project. While at the same time they've been working with Taliban. Taliban have been sending their officials to China's military to receive military training. And then just about 3 weeks ago, Taliban leader already visited China and then met China's foreign minister. They have joint statement. They're going to work together. Now, long term, see, China for years they have been in discussion with Pakistan and Iran to build this so-called China-Pakistan-Iran energy corridor. Now, with Afghanistan joining to the picture, there you go. You from the Pacific Ocean to Persian Gulf, that energy corridor, geographically, it's there. Now, see, China and Iran signed a agreement back in March of this year. In the next 25 years, China is going to invest $400 billion to help Iran's economic development, while Iran, as a return, is going to provide a constant oil supply to China. And right now, the oil from Iran, it has to go through Persian Gulf, Malacca Strait, and go through South China Sea before it reaches China. But after the energy corridor is built, then China can get all their oil supply from Iran directly by oil pipes. So in the past 2 decades of time, China has been building highways and railroads in Tibet. So that's all a part of this arrangement. So now, you can see, U.S. left with billions of, tens of billions of dollars of military equipment in Afghanistan, while China also coming to the picture, following their collaboration with Taliban before, helping Taliban military, providing them a military equipment. So you see this whole thing coming together. China is specifically want its image of world leadership, because China has Beijing's leaders now believe in the next 30 years of their economic development, they will not be able to continuously stealing the industries from the West like what they did in the past 20 years. So they want to build their own global system around them. So they do need that kind of image of a world leader. I'm not sure if you guys still remember a couple months ago in Alaska, a negotiation. China's diplomats strictly talk to U.S. diplomats, say the United States is not qualified to speak to China. I mean, that's all this kind of set up. They want the image of world leadership so that the more developing countries in Southeast Asia, Central Asia, South America, and Africa will jump into the lines following CCP's wagon.
All right, this is some scary stuff here, and I've got to ask you a couple of things. Nan Su, senior reporter with the Epoch Times. My mind's going all over the place here. One of the things I want to ask you, you're talking about the oil infrastructure, and it seems like the Chinese Communist Party is doing with the Taliban what they like to do in all of these different places. They like to build their military might using different groups of people. So it's all like one big part of the Chinese military, and they're doing this now with the Taliban. And you were talking about a 25-year deal on this oil, this oil infrastructure. The first question I need to ask you is about the Paris Climate Accord, which the U.S. and sleepy Joe Biden have signed on to, and now is trying to he's destroying our energy infrastructure while China is building their infrastructure because they don't have to comply for arguably 10 years. Do you think China is ever going to comply, or is that just false on its face?
Well, you don't have to look at the next 10 years. All you need to do is just look back in the past 20 years. U.S. and in China has been in negotiation in the past 20 years. Until this year, we are still like an intellectual property rights, the free and fair market entrance for the U.S. corporations into China. All those things. What we currently negotiate with China, it's what China promised 20 years ago in 2001 when they joined WTO. So we negotiated more than 20 years already. We got nothing from them. What do you think? Their promise for the next whatever the years to come. You just need to look at the history.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. That's what I was thinking. I'm not president of the United States, but I could have told Joe Biden that. I could have told John Kerry that, but they wouldn't listen to me because I'm just a radio guy. Maybe they'd listen to you, Nan Su. Let me ask you, is the Chinese Communist Party emboldened by what Joe Biden and John Kerry are doing on the energy front, number one? And go ahead and answer that question first, and then I'll ask you the next one.
Well, I think the only way we'll be able to make U.S. In the future in a stronger position to defend our national security is to really decouple from China.
Now, what about all the industry? And do you think that Joe Biden's dealings with China, he and Hunter Biden have been pretty close to the CCP, and Joe Biden has enriched his family and John Kerry's family a lot thanks to the CCP? Do you think they are in any hurry at all to do something that is going to make their money source dry up?
I don't have that part. Last year there was a lot of report on that, but it didn't really go any. We don't see any more reports on those parts about the Joe Biden family members' relationship with China. But however, this year most of the China policies has been continued from Trump administration, except we are hoping Biden can be much stronger on the China policy.
Do you think Donald Trump was strong on the China policy?
Absolutely. So I think that Trump's China policy, even after he left the White House, still has enjoyed the support from a bipartisan level of both sides of Congress, because most people have realized that the weaker position we take on China, then the more in danger will be posted to the lifestyle of our future generation.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. How about China's aspirations when it comes to invading or taking over Hong Kong and invading Taiwan? I mean, these are situations that Xi Jinping has made no secret that he is wanting to do.
Yeah, Hong Kong it's definitely gone. A part of the used to be a pearl of the free world. Now it's gone. It's completely, I mean, under the regime's one-party system control. Now they are threatening Taiwan. Taiwan is facing clear and present danger. We have U.S. Retired Army generals a few months ago came out and say that we are in Pacific Ocean. We are outgunned by Chinese military, and we are outmanned by Chinese military. So I think U.S. need to send a much stronger military capacity to the Pacific Ocean area to defend Taiwan. Right? Recently, even Japan came out to say they want to help defend Taiwan. So that's very important. I think the way that our troops withdraw from Afghanistan definitely give example, caused serious concern from our airlines in Pacific Asian region, including Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan. They all really concerned now.
So now, I mean, Taiwan seems to be imminent. I mean, that at some point, that's going to happen if there is no American presence in that part of the world, I would guess, unless Japan can thwart the efforts. South Korea may be a little safer for now. What do you think? Is Biden, is he flexing enough muscle? Does he have enough clout as somebody who's been in politics for 50 years to even make China think twice about doing this? Or is he just a puppet, a paper tiger, as you said earlier?
Currently, we don't have a strong enough presence in the Pacific region, especially in the area of Taiwan and South China Sea. And recently, it was just like a week ago, China made a new policy that anybody, all kind of ships, when they enter into the South China Sea region, including submarines, if you carry the radioactive material, wherever, you need to actually report to Chinese government. Now, the U.S. naval ships has been, going through South China Sea for the reason to protect the freedom of navigation. But now, does that mean actually the U.S. naval ship need to report to Beijing before they even enter South China Sea? See, Chinese government really, immediately after the U.S. forces withdraw from Afghanistan, they immediately, adopt this new policy in the South China Sea region. So it's really a challenging situation. I think that we need to really send a very strong signal that we want to protect the security of Taiwan, and we want to really defend the freedom of navigation in their area. We want to stop Chinese government's expansion in South China Sea. If we don't do that, Taiwan is going to be in great danger.
Wow. That's scary to think that we need a strong presence. We need a strong presence right now in Afghanistan to get our people home. We need a strong presence in the South China Sea. We need strong leadership. And right now, you've got Joe Biden out there talking about climate change and campaigning for the communist governor of California. What's it going to take, Nan Su, do you think? What is going to cause this administration to wake up and do more than lip service?
I think that we first of all, on the trade front, we need to really decouple, continue really making further steps following Trump administration's China policy, make a further step, not weaker, but further and stronger steps to decouple from China economically, and really help our all the U.S. corporations to come back, to give them like a tax break and whatever the policy advantage to help U.S. Corporations come back from China. Taiwan has been a great example on that. Tons of Taiwan's private companies that went to China to make investment has been encouraged by Taiwan's government come back and all just leave China, at least leave China to go to other Southeast Asia countries. So that's a very important front. And second one is, so do not give money to China through so-called Paris Accord, the climate change thing. It's only going to help China much stronger in the future to make a threat to the security of the Western world. And number three, we need to have a much stronger military presence in the Pacific Ring.
Absolutely. Here's a question that I've been dying to ask somebody who knows, and maybe you know. China is able to skip out on the Paris Climate Accord for now. They're able to do whatever they want. Burn, baby, burn. Smoke into the air, CO2 into the air, which, by the way, is not causing irreparable climate change. It's just a myth. But why is China considered a developing country? That's how they get out of it. They're considered a developing country. They're more developed in many ways than the U.S.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that need to be answered. That thing has two parts. So now all the people from the Western world, they go to China. They see all these skyscrapers and all over, and they think China is a great place to invest. And I think they also think China is changed, but China is actually not changed. If they are so much developed, then they are not developing country, right?
Right.
So, but while we are buying China, it's a developing countries, and still consider giving me the money. That's a great question. Now, here comes the second part of it. Most of the people are convinced that our investment in China will make change of China. That's totally not true. Okay, here is what it is. If you understand Chinese language, if you go live in China, just live there for a few months, you will basically understand that from all propaganda machines and of all media, every day of 365 days a year, you're going to hear the propaganda and the indoctrination that the China's past economic success has been mainly because Chinese Communist Party's leadership. So they are using, we are thinking here in the Western world, sending the investment and technology and giving the market of the Western world to China will make change of CCP. While in China, the CCP is the one they are taking the credit. So our money and our technology and our market only help a Chinese communist leader to prove their leadership. Therefore, there's no need to change for the change of the one-party political system. Therefore, in the Chinese Communist Party is the only one that will be able to lead China's successful future. So basically, the more money we send there, the more technology we give to them. It's only going to make a Communist Party stronger and stronger. And
Yep.
here is, and conclusion is, all we need to do is really look back in our history. In the history of United States, in the past century, we have two ways of dealing communist regime. One is the way dealing with the Soviet Union, which we try to make the regime weaker and weaker. Eventually, change happen from within. But there's another example, totally opposite way. That's how we deal with China. We make a communist regime stronger and richer every day. We try to help them to become stronger and weaker. Which way is the right way? I think people shall draw the conclusion themselves.
Yeah. And China's doing some, they're committing some atrocities there. I mean, you hear, and I don't know how close you are to knowing about the Uyghur Muslims in, what is it, Xinjiang province are being tortured and raped and sterilized and killed.
That's right. That's in the Xinjiang area. So that's the genocide. Now, it's Trump administration. That's back in January of this year. The State Department make an announcement, make a statement. That's a genocide. Right now, I'm really glad the Biden administration continue to claim that's a genocide. That's over there. But if it's a genocide, but if we already have a bipartisan agreement that it's a genocide taking place in China, I mean, why do we still going with this climate change agreement to help them? I mean, isn't supposed that the Genocide Convention by United Nations should take over under this discussion? I mean, if they are doing the genocide, why do we still sending the money to China to help them? I mean, I just don't totally don't understand this part.
It's very hard to understand, and not only do you have that going on, and a lot of Muslim Uyghur women being totally disrespected and injured, and I'm sure many killed. But now you've got the Chinese, the CCP, who calls the Taliban friend. You've got the Taliban killing women, killing people who play music, shooting entire families. And women are not allowed to leave their homes. They could be killed if their face is uncovered. I wonder, where is the Me Too movement? Where is the women's movement in this country when we have these things going on in other countries? How come nobody is standing up and speaking up for these poor people?
Well, see, you have the Chinese communist regime that's working with all these Islamic extremist groups. That's terrible. I mean, that's the worst that you can ever imagine combination. See, all these extremists, jihadists. See, all these terrorist groups, they never attack China. So you just look at the past history. So this is a Chinese communist regime's so-called United Front project. So the United Front department is one of the three biggest departments. The Chinese communist regime have many departments. Now, under the Chinese Communist Party, one of the three biggest departments is called United Front department. Georgetown Foundation last year did research, and the report was their budget, annual budget for the United Front department is bigger, much bigger than the budget of their foreign ministry. So that department it's all responsible for their infiltration work, and then they are going all around the world trying to either build common interests with all the different groups, such as the U.S. corporations, to keep them pouring money to China, or another way to build to do their United Front work is to build a common enemy, which is what you see, what's going on in the Muslim war, that they work Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, right now Afghanistan. So they are common enemy. It's clear. It's the United States and the Western world. So that's the base for them to build their alliance.
Are they trying to now? Russia plays a role in all this too, don't they?
That is an interesting part of the discussion. What Russia is going to be in the future, it's still not quite clear yet. There's a lot of room that we can work with. Russia has Russia is right now. It's not really friendly to the Western world and to the United States, but also Russia has a lot of conflict of interest with China in the Central Asia area. So it used to be, this area used to be Russia's backyard. Now China's influence is going there. So you see that there's a lot of conflict of interest in that region among Russia, China, and India. India is clearly our ally, but China is not. Russia, we don't know yet. I think there's a lot of things that can still be worked out. See, keep in mind, Russia right now, the total economic capacity of Russia, it's probably equal one of the 30 provinces of China. So Russia's total economic power is just a very small fraction of China. So we don't know. There's a lot of uncertain areas that could be developed in the future about their relationship, Russia's relationship, either with China or with the Western world.
Now, isn't Russia going to be a source of oil for China going forward?
Russia has been one of the main provider of oils to China, but however, in the past, because the conflict of interest, China wanted more reliable oil supply. So that's why they trying to build this oil supply from Iran, so that they can balance the dominant position of Russia right now. So basically, the relationship between Russia and China is not that stable. There's a lot of room can be worked on. So we don't know. This is undecided portion. We don't want to just throw Russia into China's camp. But what China wants to do is they want to build their own global system, kind of similar to the olden days, the Eastern European countries around Soviet Union. But that alliance was based on the common ideology, that's communism, and it was more like a military alliance. But right now, what China wants to build is a global system, mainly among the Southeast Asia countries. Now, those countries right now already replaced the European countries and has become China's biggest trading partner, and then South America countries and African countries and Central Asian countries. They want to use the Belt and Road project to economically infiltrate these countries, and then later they want to help these countries to develop their technology infrastructure. China's technologies got a back door. Once these countries, get a technology like internet, basically infrastructure built up by China, China can easily control. They will have much more effective control of the information of all these countries, much more effective than the olden days, the control of KGB. So that's what China really wants to do, and so that's what we need to watch out.
Well, I hope we have an administration that is paying attention and not just spending all of their time trying to be politically correct and working on optics rather than what really matters in this world right now. And obviously, that's keeping peace because President Xi looks like his ultimate goal is world domination, and they've got a lot of new weapons, right? I mean, they're working on their nuclear arsenal in a big way.
Oh yeah, it's definitely correct. They, in the Xinjiang area, that Uyghurs being persecuted, they are building hundreds of nuclear missile launch silos in the area. So they really preparing for this to become a world dominant power, and they want this image of leadership that's able to challenge Americans dominate power in the world. They really want that image so that more countries will coming to join the line following CCP's wagon.
And in this country right now, we're fighting over whether girls can be boys and boys can be girls, whether we should defund the police, whether we should close our borders while people pour in here. And we've got China breathing down our necks. And it doesn't seem like anybody's paying attention, Nan Su. And I'm really, and I'm not the only one who's really worried about it. And I'm sure you are too.
Oh yes, we need to look at the much bigger picture and the much broader situation, and we truly need to look out the lifestyles of our future generation. I mean, would they be able to live the same lifestyle, enjoying the same amount of freedom that we enjoy right now, our next generation here in the Western world, in the United States, with China's growing threat? I think people need to keep that much bigger picture in mind.
Amen. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Now, if we could just convince the sheep, Nan Su. Nan Su, a senior reporter with the Epoch Times, and I kept you overtime, but I really, really appreciate your insight. What a smart person. What a great person to have on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, John.
I hope we can talk again. I would like to have you back on a more regular basis if that's possible.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Great. I love your insight. Love the Epoch Times. And I encourage everybody to look for your name on Epoch Times. And also, I encourage people to watch the Epoch TV feature, which is in its third, I believe, the third installment right now, The Dark Origins of Communism. And people should really look at that because I think a lot of people who want socialism in this country, Nan, and tell me if you agree or not, socialism and Marxism and communism, they want to try it because they want a utopia. I don't think they have any idea at all what they're wishing for.
Well, let me. I'm not sure if you have time, but there are really not much difference. Now, here we call China and former Soviet Union in the Western world, we call them communist countries. But if you, for the people who live in China, who live under the former Soviet Union, those communist nations, they grew up educated that they're not communist countries. They always call themselves socialist countries.
Ah.
They never call them communist countries. Now, see, the reason that for the differences in the Western world, we call whichever the country under the control of a communist party a communist country, right? But while in those countries, they don't go by this. They go by the classical definition created by Karl Marx. And Karl Marx said that the world will not enter into the communist stage until every single country in the entire world all enter into the socialist stage. So when the entire world, every country becomes socialist country, then they can make agreement and moving forward together into the cause. communist stage of the world altogether. So that's why all these countries, they really call them socialist countries. They are waiting for the rest of the world, every other countries, all joining to the socialist camp, so they can move to the next stage, communist countries altogether.
Wow, I have never heard it put that way. That makes so much sense. So when you have like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and all of the squad members in this country saying, oh, we don't want communism, we want democratic socialism. There's not a long jump from democratic socialism to full-fledged communism, is there?
Well, see, first of all, you have to understand why Karl Marx, say every country in the world all have to be into the socialist stage before they can actually enter into the communist stage. And the reason for that was based on Marxism by Karl Marx, that the communist stage of the world, it's a world without government, because Karl Marx believed the government is apparatus for one ruling class, one social class to rule other social classes. By the time of the communism of in the world stage, supposedly every group is absolutely equal. So therefore, no need for government, no need for nation, no need for border, because you don't need because everyone is absolutely equal. So you don't need to have government anymore. You don't need to have countries anymore. You don't need to have borders anymore, and you don't have to have, and you don't have a family. Absolutely, Karl Marx is totally against the family, right? And so there's no marriage anymore, because the marriage is believed by Karl Marx that's the result of private ownership. So by that time, the communist stage of the world, there was no family anymore, and that's the Karl Marx the way created by Karl Marx to solve the problem of prostitution.
So individualism is a big no-no in the communist party. Can't be an individual. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
They don't want any individualism. They don't want to. They don't want you to have the freedom to. It's always they look at the things as a whole.
Well, it's just one big community, right?
That's correct.
That's communism. Communism starts with community. Unbelievable. Nan Su,
yes.
No, you go right ahead. Finish that thought.
Yeah, and then they want this socialism to spread, everywhere and all the countries, and all individual countries to take their own path to reach the socialist country stage, and then they will, all these socialist countries will come together to make agreement and to dissolve all the government and or dissolve all the countries and become a whole communist world as the final stage.
Wow. Well, I hope some of our progressive friends who think they want communism are listening to you, and they heed the warning. And I am out of time now, Nan Su, but boy, oh boy, what a great conversation this has been. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me, John.
Well, I as I said before, I hope we can talk again sometime, and I wish you the very best.
Oh, thank you. Have a good day.
Take care, my friend. Bye now.
Bye-bye.